You know, when people hear that I'm 82 years old and haven't been seriously sick in over 35 years, they usually look at me the same way. They smile politely. Then they assume I'm exaggerating. I don't blame them. If someone had told me years ago that an ordinary woman could reach her 80s feeling stronger than she did in her 40s, I probably would have doubted it too. But here I am. My name is Catherine. I'm 82 years old. I still live in my own home. I still cook my own meals. I still work in my garden. I still drive myself to the grocery store. I still wake up every morning excited to start the day. And perhaps most importantly, I wake up feeling healthy, not perfect. Let's be honest. At 82, nobody feels 25. My knees occasionally remind me of my age. My back sometimes complains when I spend too much time bending over in the garden. But serious illness, the kind that keeps you in bed for weeks, the kind that steals your independence, the kind that makes you feel like your body is betraying you, I haven't experienced that in more than 3 decades. And every time I visit my doctor, he shakes his head and says something similar. Catherine, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Well, today I'm going to tell you exactly what I've been doing, because I believe good health isn't luck. I believe it's built, one choice at a time, one meal at a time, one habit at a time. And while there are many things that contribute to my health, there are 7 foods that have become part of my daily life. 7 foods I eat every single day. 7 foods I truly believe helped me stay healthy while so many people around me struggled. But before I tell you what they are, let me tell you something important. I wasn't always healthy. In fact, there was a time when I was heading in a very different direction. I was 46 years old. Life was busy, very busy. I was raising children, taking care of my home, helping elderly family members, working part-time, trying to be everything for everyone, and like so many women, I completely ignored myself. I ate whatever was convenient, skipped meals, relied on coffee when I was tired, relied on sugar when I needed energy, and told myself I would take care of my health later. Later, that's the most dangerous word in the world, because later has a habit of never arriving. One afternoon I was standing in my kitchen preparing dinner when I suddenly felt exhausted, not normal tired, not the kind of tired that disappears after a good night's sleep. This felt different. It felt like someone had unplugged my batteries. I sat down at the kitchen table and just stared. My hands felt weak. My mind felt foggy. Even simple tasks felt difficult. At first I ignored it. Then I ignored it some more, but eventually the symptoms became impossible to dismiss. I was gaining weight, sleeping poorly, catching every cold that passed through town, feeling older than I actually was, and one day I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. That moment changed everything, because for the first time in my life, I realized something. Nobody was coming to rescue me. No miracle pill, no magical treatment, no secret doctor. If I wanted better health, I needed to start making better choices. So I did, slowly, patiently, one habit at a time. And it all started with the first food, oatmeal. I know. Not very exciting, not exactly a miracle food, but don't underestimate simple things. Simple things often create extraordinary results. For years, breakfast had been my worst meal. Sugary cereals, toast with jam, pastries, anything quick, anything convenient, anything that filled my stomach without nourishing my body. When I replaced those foods with a bowl of oatmeal every morning, something surprising happened. I stayed full longer. My energy became more stable. The cravings that used to control my afternoons became weaker, and within a few weeks I noticed I wasn't reaching for sugary snacks nearly as often. That alone changed my life, because sugar had been controlling me for years. What I later learned was that oatmeal contains soluble fiber, a special kind of fiber that helps support healthy cholesterol levels and keeps blood sugar more stable. But honestly, I didn't need scientific studies to convince me. I could feel the difference. My body was telling me. And sometimes your body knows the truth before science explains it. For nearly 35 years, I've eaten oatmeal almost every single morning. Not because it's exciting, because it works. Now let's talk about the second food. And this one surprised me even more. Blueberries. When I was younger, blueberries were something I occasionally added to desserts. Nothing more. I certainly didn't think of them as a health food. Then one summer, a neighbor brought over a basket from her garden. They were fresh, sweet, beautiful, and I started adding them to my oatmeal every morning. Not because I expected health benefits, because they tasted good, but after reading more about nutrition, I discovered something fascinating. Blueberries are packed with compounds called antioxidants. These compounds help protect the body from something known as oxidative stress. Now that sounds complicated, but here's the simple version. Every day your body faces wear and tear, just like a car, just like a house, just like anything else that exists long enough. And foods rich in antioxidants help your body handle some of that wear and tear more effectively. That's why blueberries became a permanent part of my breakfast. Even now, decades later, I still eat them nearly every day. Some people spend hundreds of dollars searching for anti-aging secrets. Meanwhile, one of my favorites grows on bushes. Life is funny that way. But what happened next completely transformed my health, because the third food wasn't something I added. It was something I almost never ate before. And after making it part of my daily routine, the changes became impossible to ignore. My energy increased, my digestion improved, and for the first time in years, I started feeling like my body was working with me instead of against me. I'll tell you about that food next, because that's when my journey truly began changing in ways I never expected. When I look back now, I realize something important. Most people don't get sick overnight. Most people don't wake up one morning and suddenly find themselves unhealthy. It happens little by little. One poor choice, one neglected habit, one year after another. And the opposite is true as well. Good health is usually built slowly. One healthy meal, one good habit, one consistent choice repeated thousands of times. My name is Catherine. I'm 82 years old, and by the time oatmeal and blueberries became part of my daily routine, I was already noticing changes. Nothing dramatic, nothing miraculous, just steady improvements. I felt more energetic. I was sleeping better. My mood was improving. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful, and hope is powerful. Because when you begin seeing results, you stop viewing healthy habits as sacrifices. You start viewing them as investments. That's exactly what happened to me. And that's when I discovered the third food. The food that completely changed my digestion. Apples. Now I know what you're thinking. An apple? Really? Yes, an apple. Sometimes the most powerful things are also the simplest. For years I was eating desserts almost every afternoon. Cookies, cakes, sweet snacks, nothing outrageous. Just enough to create a habit. And habits become difficult to break, especially when sugar is involved. One afternoon I decided to try something different. Instead of reaching for a cookie, I sliced up an apple. That single decision turned into a habit that has lasted decades. What surprised me most wasn't the taste, it was how satisfied I felt afterward. The fiber helped me stay full. My digestion became more regular, and my afternoon energy crashes became less frequent. The older I get, the more I appreciate foods that work quietly, foods that don't promise miracles, foods that simply support the body day after day. That's exactly what apples did for me. To this day, I still eat one every afternoon, rain or shine, busy or not, traveling or at home. The habit remains, and after 35 years, I have no intention of stopping. But the fourth food may have been even more important, because this food changed something that affects almost every part of the body: inflammation. The fourth food was leafy greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, collard greens, anything green and leafy. Growing up, I hated vegetables. I really did. If my mother put spinach on my plate, I would stare at it as if it were punishment. But age has a funny way of changing your perspective. The foods you avoided as a child often become the foods you appreciate most as an adult. I started adding leafy greens to soups, omelets, salads, sandwiches, almost everything. And after a few months, I noticed another shift. My joints felt better. Not perfect, but better. The stiffness that greeted me every morning wasn't quite as intense. The aches that used to follow me throughout the day seemed less aggressive. Of course, no food can stop aging. Nothing can. But some foods help your body handle aging more gracefully. And leafy greens became one of those foods for me. They're rich in vitamins, minerals, and compounds that support countless functions inside the body. Honestly, I don't even think about them anymore. Adding greens has become as automatic as brushing my teeth. It's simply part of who I am now. And that's another lesson worth sharing. The healthiest habits are the ones you stop thinking about, the ones that become normal, the ones that become part of your identity. Then came the fifth food. And this one has a special place in my heart because it reminds me of my grandmother. Every evening when I was young, she would sit at the kitchen table with a small handful of nuts. Nothing fancy. Usually walnuts or almonds. At the time I thought it was strange. Why eat nuts every day?
Why not something more exciting?
Years later, I finally understood. My grandmother knew something I didn't. Simple foods often deliver extraordinary benefits when eaten consistently. So I started eating a handful of nuts every day. Not a giant bowl, not an entire package, just a small handful. And over time, they became one of my favorite daily rituals. Nuts are satisfying. They contain healthy fats, they help keep hunger under control, and they provide nutrients the body needs as it ages. Whenever people ask me for a healthy snack, I usually recommend nuts before anything else. They're portable, simple, and they've stood the test of time. Unlike many health trends that appear one year and disappear the next. Now, at this point, something remarkable was happening. I wasn't just feeling healthier, I was looking healthier. Friends began commenting. Family members noticed. Even people who hadn't seen me in a while would say things like, "Catherine, you look wonderful. What are you doing differently? You seem younger." I always laughed when they said younger. At 60, then 70, then 80, you don't become younger, but you can become healthier. And there's a difference, a very important difference. Most people spend their lives chasing youth. I chose to chase health instead, and health has rewarded me generously. One afternoon, shortly after my 70th birthday, I was sitting on my porch with a close friend. She looked tired, exhausted actually, the kind of tired that goes beyond sleep, the kind that settles deep into your bones. She asked me a question I'll never forget. "Catherine, why do you always seem to have so much energy?" I didn't know how to answer, because there wasn't one answer. There wasn't one secret. There wasn't one magical solution. There were dozens of small decisions made every single day. Healthy habits, nutritious foods, good sleep, movement, purpose. Consistency. The truth is that good health rarely comes from one dramatic change. It comes from many small choices working together, and that's exactly what was happening in my life. But there were still two foods left. Two foods that completed my daily routine, and one of them turned out to be the most important food of all. The food I believe helped protect my immune system year after year. The food I haven't missed for decades. I'll tell you about those final two foods next, because that's when the story becomes even more surprising. And that's when I began understanding why I had managed to avoid serious illness for so many years while so many people around me struggled. By the time I reached my 70s, I had learned something that completely changed the way I thought about health. Most people spend their lives searching for a secret, a miracle pill, a miracle diet, a miracle doctor, a miracle supplement. But after decades of paying attention to my body, I discovered something very different. The healthiest people I know don't have secret solutions. They simply do ordinary things extraordinarily consistently. My name is Catherine. I'm 82 years old. And by the time oatmeal, blueberries, apples, leafy greens, and nuts became permanent parts of my daily life, I was already healthier than I had been in years. My energy was stable. My digestion was better. My sleep had improved. I was moving more easily. And perhaps most importantly, I wasn't getting sick. Not the way I used to. Not the way many people around me were. But there were still two foods left. Two foods that became daily habits. And together they completed the foundation of my health. The sixth food was yogurt. Simple plain yogurt. Nothing fancy. No bright packaging, no trendy marketing, just plain yogurt. I started eating it almost by accident. A friend recommended it years ago after I complained about occasional digestive issues. I wasn't expecting much, but within a few weeks I noticed something interesting. My stomach felt calmer, more predictable, less bloated, less uncomfortable. At first I thought it was coincidence. Then the improvement continued, month after month, year after year. Eventually, I learned about probiotics, the beneficial bacteria that help support a healthy digestive system. Now I'm not a scientist, and I don't pretend to understand every technical detail, but I do understand results, and the results were impossible to ignore. What fascinated me was learning how connected everything inside the body truly is. When digestion improves, other systems often improve too. Energy improves, comfort improves, even mood can improve. The body is not a collection of separate parts, it's a team. Everything works together, and when one part functions better, the entire system benefits. That's exactly what yogurt seemed to do for me. It became one more small habit that quietly supported my health, one more piece of the puzzle, one more reason I continued feeling strong year after year. Then came the seventh food. And if I had to choose one food that represents my philosophy of health, this would probably be it. Beans, simple beans. For some people, that answer will sound disappointing. They're expecting something exotic, something expensive, something difficult to find. Instead, my answer is beans, black beans, kidney beans, navy beans, lentils, any variety. I've eaten them for decades, and I honestly believe they deserve far more attention than they receive. Beans are filling, nutritious, affordable, and incredibly versatile. You can add them to soups, stews, salads, side dishes, almost anything. But what I love most about beans is how they make me feel satisfied, steady, nourished. When I eat foods like beans, I don't experience the dramatic highs and lows that used to dominate my day. I don't crash. I don't spend the afternoon searching for sugar. I don't feel constantly hungry. That stability has been one of the greatest gifts of aging wisely. At 82, I value stability more than excitement, and beans provide exactly that. So there they are, the 7 foods I eat every single day: oatmeal, blueberries, apples, leafy greens, nuts, yogurt, beans, nothing rare, nothing expensive, nothing complicated. Just simple foods repeated consistently for decades. But if I stopped the story there, I wouldn't be telling you the whole truth, because food is only part of the reason I've remained healthy. A very important part, but only part. The older I get, the more convinced I become that health is about more than what sits on your plate. It's also about what sits in your heart. Let me explain. Several years ago, a reporter interviewed me for a local newspaper. She asked what my secret was. I told her about the foods. I told her about walking every day. I told her about sleep. She nodded and took notes. Then she asked one final question. What do you wake up looking forward to? At first, I wasn't sure how to answer. Then I realized the answer was simple: everything. I look forward to everything: my morning coffee, the sunrise, the birds in my garden, phone calls from family, conversations with neighbors, books, music, life. I still look forward to life, and I believe that matters, because when people lose purpose, something changes. They stop moving, they stop engaging, they stop caring for themselves. Their world becomes smaller and smaller. I never wanted that. So I made a decision years ago. I would remain curious for as long as possible. I would keep learning, keep reading, keep asking questions, keep meeting people, keep growing, no matter how old I became. That decision transformed my life. Even now, at 82, I learn new things every week. I read books. I listen to interviews. I try recipes I've never made before. I plant flowers I've never grown before. The world remains interesting, and as long as the world remains interesting, I want to remain part of it. Another thing I've learned is the importance of helping other people. Every week, I call someone who might be lonely. Sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's a neighbor. Sometimes it's a family member. The call usually lasts only a few minutes, but those few minutes matter, not just for them, for me too, because helping people creates connection, and connection is powerful medicine. Loneliness affects health. Isolation affects health. Stress affects health. Human beings need each other. We always have, and we always will. That's why I never focus exclusively on food when people ask about longevity. I talk about friendship, purpose, gratitude, community, kindness. Those things nourish the body in ways science is still learning to understand. When you're connected to others, life feels lighter. Problems feel smaller, stress becomes easier to manage, and all of that influences health. The body listens to everything, not just what you eat, but how you live, how you think, how you connect, how you love. Looking back over the last 35 years, I don't believe there was one moment that changed everything. There wasn't one miracle. There wasn't one breakthrough. There were thousands of ordinary days, thousands of breakfasts, thousands of walks, thousands of healthy choices. Thousands of moments when I could have given up but didn't. That's the real secret. Consistency, not perfection. Consistency. I still enjoy dessert sometimes. I still miss a walk occasionally. I still have lazy days. I'm human. The goal was never perfection. The goal was simply to make good choices more often than bad ones. And over time, those choices accumulated, like drops of water filling a bucket. Eventually, the bucket overflowed. Today, at 82, people often ask if I'm afraid of getting older. The truth is no. I respect aging. I don't fear it, because every year has taught me something valuable, when every decade has offered lessons I couldn't have learned any other way. And if there's one lesson I wish I could share with every person watching this, it's this. Your future health is being built today, not tomorrow, not next month, today. Every meal matters. Every walk matters. Every hour of sleep matters. Every act of kindness matters. Every healthy habit matters. You don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need to become perfect. You simply need to begin. One small step, one small improvement, one small choice, then another, then another. Before you know it, those small choices become your life, and your life becomes something beautiful. My name is Catherine. I'm 82 years old. I haven't been seriously sick for more than 35 years. I still wake up excited about life. I still enjoy my mornings. I still enjoy my garden. I still enjoy the people I love. And every single day, I eat oatmeal, blueberries, apples, leafy greens, nuts, yogurt, and beans. Maybe doctors can explain it. Maybe they can't. But I know how I feel. I feel grateful. I feel healthy. I feel alive. And I hope you do too. Take care of yourself. Be patient with yourself. And remember, the greatest health transformation rarely comes from one extraordinary decision. It comes from thousands of ordinary decisions made with love, consistency, and hope. God bless you, my friends, and thank you for spending a little time with me today.